Lucia is almost here, and this time I got the guide out early. That may or may not be because Lucia is an incredibly straightforward character to understand, which makes it better for you as the player. In my recent videos, I've been making a claim that Lucia is borderline a must pull in my opinion, and for good reason. But now that I've completed my guide, I need to retract that statement. I still believe she's a must pull, but only if you plan on investing into Rupture at all now or in the future. For other team comps, I kind of go over that later on in the guide. In today's video, I'm going to break down the raw value and power Lucia provides to anyone's account, her interesting take on the support playstyle, and how that changes based on the team you're using her with. And then of course, we'll cover her best teams, builds, and overall potential as a new limited support agent coming to the game. Let's unfold Lucia's pages. Starting things off, Lucia is extremely straightforward and simple to pick up and play. If you've played Yixuan, then she's closer to her playstyle compared to Astra, and just like Yixuan, yes, there is tech with her that completely changes the options your team have during stun rotations and chain attack starters. From a base level though, Lucia has two different types of attacks, Whim and Harmony. Most of her attacks have a Whim version, which is what you'll use to build dream points. These include her 5th basic attack, normal skill, dodge counter, and quick assist. Each attack gives a different property, but all you really need to know is how do I add up to 100 as quickly as possible. For a quick opener, just mash a combo into BA5. Her 5th hit is one of her most powerful attacks, counts as a Whim, and gives 40 energy. She starts at 60 energy, so this immediately activates her dream install. After that, my go-to method for entering dream state is always EX skill into 5th basic attack. Coincidentally, 5th skill leads directly into the 5th hit every single time. You can also animation cancel during the EX skill so that you can guarantee the skill, the 5th basic, and a quick assist all to happen within 2 seconds. Learn how to do this input to further maximize your damage. Now her Harmony attacks consist of the EX skill, the assist follow-up, the chain attack, and the ultimate. These are typically her most damaging moves and most often lead into the combo starters or enders that you'll do depending on the team. When her Harmony attacks deal damage, she increases the final hit's damage by an additional 70% of her max HP. And fun fact, each of her off-field aftershock attacks share the same base multiplier, but the damage bonus each of them gets depends on which ethereal skill is summoned. An easy combo to get into the dream state with just Harmony attacks is going to be something like assist follow-up after a defensive counter, straight into the EX skill. You can also do that animation cancel tech I told you about earlier to immediately get big damage from Lucia while escaping off the field at the same time. So now we get to stress why understanding the distinct difference between the two types of attacks is so important. Every time Lucia activates a Harmony attack, she applies the Darkbreaker status to the entire squad, and that increases everyone's sheer force by up to 900 points for 20 seconds, along with a 30% crit damage if you activate her additional passive, which, let's be honest, you're definitely gonna do. Repeatedly doing Harmony attacks basically makes this buff permanent. Same time, if the dream state is active, Lucia's upgraded Harmony skills or aftershock attacks will trigger the nursery rhyme state, and that increases everyone's damage by 20%. Additionally, entering the dream state always activates her version of Ether Veil, which increases everyone's max HP by 5%. According to the theory crafters, this is finality HP. Never thought I'd say that out loud. Moving into the gear, Lucia's build is weird. I mean, the disc drives are straightforward, but the stats are ridiculously strict. Let's start with the fact that our current in-game requirement to hit the maximum threshold for Darkbreaker's sheer force boost is 24,000 HP. Brother, what? Even on the CE server, where I have access to more resources than anyone will ever have in their life, I somehow still ran out of Denny's and spare disc trying to hit this number. Mind you, I needed multiple HP percent rolls over +2, flat HP rolls, and triple HP main stat with a 2-piece Yunque set. I personally feel like this requirement is way too much for what it provides. Her entire gimmick is weaving in and out of combat so that you not only maximize the damage she gives to the team, but also the damage she does herself. I understand that she's a support character, so naturally we're going to shrug off their damage application to the team, but consistently hitting someone in the face for 100k when her install is active is something I'd rather have than not have. That 100k is also under the pretense you're building Lucia to reach the 24,000 max HP HP requirement instead of finding a middle ground and giving her more personal damage. I do want to be a little bit more accurate with my test though, so I'm going to join up with a theory crafter who's going to do the math. As of right now with my in-game test, by just swapping the HP 4 to a crit rate 4, I'm able to see Lucia's personal damage with J Gundam's dive attack increase from 87k to 101k. I've seen larger results from her BA5, upwards of 160,000 too. At the same time, my Yixuan's damage saw a drop off of about 2,000, maybe 10,000 damage per crit, which, like I said, I want to do a lot more research on this before hard sticking to this, but from my own experience with the live version of the game, Lucia felt harder to build for that specific HP threshold compared to most of my DPS characters. If I have triple HP pieces, I'll use them, but if not, I'm aiming for 20 to 23k HP as some type of norm. Regarding her disc drives, Moonlight Lullaby is her best 2-piece set. The 20-piece energy regen and extra easy conditionals for a consistent 18% damage boost is perfect for the team. Swing Jazz or Unique Tails is the 2-piece the game recommends, but I just told you guys, I'm a fan of making my supports actually contribute damage. From a feels crafting result, I like 2-piece Woodpecker or Branching Blade way more. If I'm naturally able to hit my 50% crit rate without Woodpecker, then I find myself opting for a strong Branching Blade set to further increase her personal damage. That 24k threshold is so high that if you can't hit it, then I believe it's best to settle for a median number and pump the excess stats into more personal damage. For main stats, you're ideally looking for an HP or crit rate 4, depending on your goal, then an HP 5 and HP 6. The Hoyo tool oddly recommends Ether 5 if you want more damage, so that might work out. The tool also assumes you can easily hit 24k HP with just 2 HP main disc, which you cannot do, especially without her W engine. Substat focus should prioritize every HP stat possible, then crit fish for whatever number you're looking at. For her W engines, Dreamlit Hearth is Lucia's best in slot for obvious reasons, and to my understanding is the only way to achieve that 24,000 HP threshold. No other support engine in the game gives main stat HP. It also provides consistent energy regen, both increasing damage by 25% and HP by 15% for the entire squad. This thing is straight up busted for all of her teams. Not going for the SIG opens up some options, but forces your build into a much more stricter style. Weeping Cradle is what I'd aim for as a free-to-play. We were able to use a selector to get this for free, and you can buy it in the shop using whale currency. Cradle provides the same off-field energy regen while also giving a damage bonus to the entire team. Unfortunately, this will only be active every 5 seconds or so because Lucia only strikes the enemy with an aftershock attack every 8 seconds. Double unfortunately, even with the brand new UI change to the game showing us when our buffs are active, we still can't see debuff statuses against enemies. So you realistically won't even know when you have it active. After that, I'd recommend Game Ball. This gives you a huge energy regen boost to make up for the lacking off-field ER you would have gotten from the other engines. And also, as long as the enemy is weak to Lucia's element, aka Ether, then she'll give everyone anywhere between a plus 12 to 20% crit rate against whatever enemy she hits. That number depends on which level of overclock you have on the engine. The most important thing you'll need to keep in mind is that when using other support W engines, Lucia can essentially only equip HP disc to make up for the lacking stats she wants. Oh yeah, and Kaboom works for the energy regen too, but the team-wide attack boost doesn't really matter to Rupture Agents as much as damage percent or HP. You guys know the drill. None of you actually need these, but in the event you're feeling, I don't know, a little frisky, then feel free to super chat me that M1 Lucia in the comments below. With that said, M1 is easily her most recommended mindscape. Dreamer's Nursery now ignores 18% all type res, while also boosting the decibel generation rate. When Lucia triggers an upgraded harmony skill, she gains a stack of something called Echo, which is basically a backup version of that same Dreamer's Nursery buff. Essentially, M1 Lucia gives the entire team a permanent Destructo disc from Dragon Ball Z. Funnily enough, Astra's M1 also reduces 18% all type res, which is why so many players have her. Giving Lucia the same effect speaks for itself. Her next most notable mindscape is M6. When Lucia is under an Ether Veil state, she increases her attack based on a percentage of her initial max HP. Harmony skills will always crit, that's pretty damn big, and crit damage is increased by an additional 30%. If you naturally well, this sounds like it's worth the cost. The additional attack for Lucia is nice, but the most important or powerful aspect is the guaranteed crit. After unlocking Mindscape 6, focusing on HP Drive Disc can lead to diminishing returns. So this is where you swap the Disc 4 to a crit damage for maximum damage value. With this particular setup, Lucia's Harmony skills pack a triple threat: high multipliers, HP converted damage, and guaranteed crits. And finally, at the end of the guide, we can smash out the strongest teams for Lucia. Normally what I like to do is break this section into 3 separate categories: best in slot, most effective, and hyper carry. Best in slot means the units on this team are irreplaceable. Everyone on this team performs at their highest caliber, helps each other passively through combat, and serves a purpose other than purely existing on the team for one agent's benefit. Most effective is, on average, the strongest team for all forms of content. It excels at destroying single target bosses, shutting down mechanics, and absolutely fucks on everything. Hyper carry is, hyper carry. You're funneling everything you have on this team into a single point and mega buffing the DPS to all links in order to slam on whatever's in your face as hard as possible. But here's the thing, this team style isn't anywhere close to her most optimal team in my opinion. She has hyper carry teams, but they are situationally better than the most effective teams at best. Lucia is a naturally strong S-rank support agent, fulfilling the role of a specialized unit for Rupture teams. She's capable of providing massive sheer force, damage, and crit damage boost, while still enhancing the team's overall HP limits thanks to her Ether Veil mechanic. Your focus when building her teams should primarily be Rupture comps, so I want to focus this section on that. However, let me briefly state that the other attack agents like Sanbi or Yixuan work. You just need to readjust your team to take Lucia into account. For example, Lucia isn't the best for Yixuan by any means, but if you happen to have an M1 Zhu or Qingyi, then you can get away with using Lucia so that you can play your Yixuan more on field than before. Beyond that concept, Lucia's best in slot team is currently Yixuan, Jifufu, and Lucia, but the actual best in slot team is Yidhari. The new in-game mode gave us access to test run Yidhari, which is where I did all of my repeated testing. This team plays like butter and absolutely obliterates anything in the game. Yidhari has a unique core passive where she gains extra sheer force based on her max HP, just like the other Rupture agents. This is incredibly useful to a character like Yidhari because the more HP she has, the more damage she can pump into her HP draining mechanic. At the same time, she has her own Ether Veil, or rather, I guess they're kind of like the same veil, but each one of them counts on top of the other. I don't know, it's weird. You can stack them and you can activate them separately, but her specific buff increases her own crit damage by 50% and she gains a new move, those icy tentacles. I know, right? This doubles down with Lucia's, which gives Yidhari finalized max HP on top of the already gigantic HP pool in the first place. On top of that, everything Lucia does is dish out destructive damage. Lucia backs her with aftershock attacks, continuously heals her so she can keep sucking away her HP, and fills in the gap for whenever Yidhari is in the middle of charging or counterattacking. This is where that concept of building Lucia to deal her own personal damage heavily comes into play. At the same time, Yidhari's interesting charge hammer gameplay gives her a lot of opportunities to use switch tech, aka the double shoulder technique, and that lets you squeeze in extra damage, build more stun, or re-up buffs without losing DPS. It takes a lot of getting used to because this can change depending on the boss. For example, when you're fighting a more aggressive boss, Yidhari will do her true counterattack way more often. You'll know she's doing this move whenever it looks like she's still charging, but her tentacles are going ballistic in front of her. Following Yidhari, we have 2 options for a stunner: Jifufu or Trigger. This swings in Jifufu's favor almost all of the time because you can't activate Trigger's additional passive with the other 2 on the team. For the most part, Jifufu is just the best option in every case so far. Consistent damage buildup, great damage potential thanks to her natural crit, additional damage and crit damage buffs, plus the additional ability to increase the maximum decibels by 1,000. It was difficult for me to test this during the new in-game because she's a trial character, but I expect in actual in-game content using your own characters, you will be able to perform double ult combos. This is primarily due to the way that Ether Veil works. By activating one of their veils, Immediately after the previous one ends, this allows Yidhari to pop an ultimate inside of 2 different ether veils. The reason for that is because Yidhari can only use her ultimate per ether veil activation. So after you get your 3000 decibels, you do a particular move, she activates Veil, and you have 30 seconds to trigger her ultimate at your own leisure. This combo is difficult to do though because it requires strong meter management, time management, and whatever else. But if successful, absolutely obliterates whatever's in front of her. In Trigger's case, even without her additional passive, she still performs great as an off-field stunner, and being able to apply a damage multiplier throughout the entire fight is always welcome. This is even better for players who own Trigger but no W engine, because now with the Rupture Agent, the defense shred her signature gives doesn't even matter. Next up, we have the most effective, which I believe falls under 2 types and conveniently both teams I was going to mention anyway. There's the high skill floor option or the low skill floor. Today, I'm going to start with the low. That being Soul Bad Guy, Jafufu, or Colada and Lucia. This team is going to take the cake for the most effective at a low skill floor. This means that this team will be the most pickup friendly option, while still providing great results that can compete with all current forms of content. The difference between Fufu and Colada comes down to which one you have and creates a slightly different playstyle. Manato has a pretty impressive chain attack multiplier, and the rest of his damage is jam-packed with sheer force in every way. Soul Bad Guy is an incredible agent that free-to-play players will be thankful to have. I swear this happens in every other CE server, but I accidentally played Manato with level 1 skills at M0 and still managed to just barely get under 20k. That's a Manato with level 1 skills at M0, pulling in an almost clear. Mind you, I had no idea how to fight this new boss at the time either. Afterwards, I quickly picked up the pace, leveled his skills, and just M0 alone was able to take me upwards of 26,000 points. Increasing his mindscapes brought me up to a whopping 41,000 in the latest Deadly Assault. His ability to mash on anything and pump out hundreds of thousands of damage is insane. Defensive parry, mash. Manual parry, mash. Charge Molten Edge, yeah bro, I'm still gonna mash. Popped my ultimate, brother, I'm mashing. There's obviously some interesting tech he has, but I'm gonna save that for his own guide. Soul Bad Guy loves Lucia, and it's perfect that they're on the same banner. I want to talk about Colada next, who isn't usually mentioned, but right here, she's great. A fast stunner that naturally takes up more field time than others anyway, due to her dodge counters packing a huge amount of days buildup. The new King of the Summit set encourages her to play on an offensive crit build as it is, and thanks to her natural ability to increase her own days up to 60%, it's way easier to slot in an attack 6 over impact. Probably the biggest factor though is increasing the chain attack damage by 70%. With Manato's multiplier already nearing 1200%, a damage buff like this is huge for his playstyle. Plus, it's easy as heck to do. I added her on a whim because I wanted to answer whether or not a more free-to-play option existed, but I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of learning how this team works. Then there's Jafufu, who I feel like I shouldn't have to repeat again. The same things from Yidhari's section apply here, but the main differences in the team will be Manato is on field a lot more. You still want to prioritize your defensive assist with him and take advantage of the chain attack tech Jafufu has that allows you to start the stun combo with her off-field chain attack, and it also saves meter. Combine this with Lucia's ability to consistently keep her buffs up, and this team easily fits in the hands of any player. Lastly, we have the obvious. You thought I was going to forget about the main girl who benefits the most right now? No. Yixuan, Jafufu, and Lucia performs extremely close to Yidhari, and with the current Rupture shilling that's happening on this patch, it's fair game to argue she's visibly on par with Miyabi now. Lucia provides everything Yixuan wants from a ground level and essentially acts as 2 pandas on the team, while still leaving your stunner option open. Now, while Yixuan doesn't have an ether veil of her own, she does have her auric ink passive that's basically increasing her own damage buffs for every important attack. Something else that's pretty interesting is now that Lucia helps Yixuan dance on and off the field a lot smoother, she can take advantage of her lightning strike from the additional ability more frequently now. For those that don't know, this move is rarely used on purpose, and now Lucia not only gives her the option to use it, but also increases the damage it does because she increases the sheer force boost entirely. Lucia really does feel like the perfect fit for Yixuan that we've been waiting for. Once again, Jafufu is still the same as the last 2 times I mentioned her. There's really not much more I can say, and she's been performing as Yixuan's preferred stunner since her initial banner was released. I know this Yixuan section is a lot shorter than the other two, but we've already dealt with Yixuan and we already have the information for her from the previous 4 or 5 months that we've had her. I kind of felt like this guide, or rather this section of the guide, was more important for me to focus on with the 2 new characters, because a lot of you guys would be picking up these characters and learning them for the first time. Yixuan, we kind of already learned her and we already know how to use her, so just slap on Lucia. With that said, I think I'm done with the guide. Lucia is straightforward, easy to play, and provides players something to grind towards with her demanding stats. Jay Stern told me that part, by the way. I'll continue to say it. Lucia is absolutely a must pull for anyone looking to invest into the Rupture comps, and as of right now, I'm satisfied with her performance at M0. I'm looking forward to what standards we'll expect from Rupture agents from now on. Guys, I recorded that part at least 4 times. I'm not re-recording it. You're gonna hear the mess ups. It's raw, it's live, it's happening. All right, it is what it is. Yidhari and Manato both put a shock to my system. Lucia dominates her foes with a 4 out of 5.